Boss Limbaugh calls them the drive-by media, the folks who replay the ludicrous antics and shameful statements that he spews, maliciously slandering Limbaugh by quoting verbatim the words of his biggest enemy, himself. In our number one story, it's not drive-by media, but media that you might drive by, about which Limbaugh can now start bellyaching. The DNC's Caption This Billboard contest is over. The winner unveiled today, and it's okay, sorta, I guess. Last week, the Democratic National Committee began soliciting slogans for a billboard that it would purchase in Boss Limbaugh's hometown of West Palm Beach, Florida, as a response to Limbaugh's call for the Obama administration to fail. 80,000 submissions and more, but before we get to the actual winner, some of a select group of also-rans from the comment section of Fark.com. The DNC did not select Please Do Not Feed the Ego, Bring Me Solo and the Wookiee, that's a Jabba the Hutt reference. And that's not a winner. And finally, not used was Fat, Dumb, and Conservatives No Way to Go Through Life, Son. But your winner, from somebody named William C. of Camden, New Jersey, Americans didn't vote for a rush to failure. On that note, let's call in Margaret Carlson, political columnist for Bloomberg News and the Washington editor of The Week magazine. Margaret, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Rush to failure is the winner? I mean, isn't it a little vague? And frankly, it's not nearly as funny as Please Do Not Feed the Ego.
Not funny at all, really, and you have to stop and think about it, which is the last thing you want somebody reading a billboard to have to do. If you're going to run a contest that would occupy the mind of a teenage boy for an hour, you need to make it. You need to get a slacker movie, wacky kind of intelligence brought to it, and go the whole way and make it really funny. It's not the least bit funny. Yours, Please Don't Feed the Ego, is a little bit funnier.
But fat jokes are the fat jokes that were in there, the ones about Jabba the Hutt and stuff, are they're funny. But honestly, physical jokes should be out of bounds for both parties. But the runner-up, the actual runner-up was Rush Hour is over in America. Isn't that better than Americans didn't vote for a rush to failure? I mean, it's simple and it gets a point across, doesn't it?
That one is much better, especially since it's on a billboard on a highway. I think people would get that. I do wonder, though, Keith, and you said there were 80,000 submissions for this. Aren't the donors to the DNC going to wonder about people sitting around opening up 80,000 submissions and reading them and then sort of carefully assessing, is Please Feed the Ego as good as Rush Hour is over in America? I don't think so.
Well, but you're also assuming they read all of them. They just said there were 80,000 submissions. It could have been, let's read the first 10 or 20 that come in, and then we'll go to lunch. Which is why they
right.
I mean, somebody must have suggested Mount Rush less, which would have been funny by itself. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's a great,
good, Keith.
Yeah, just a cornball sort of thing that came to me. It's been about 2 weeks since the CPAC thing and since the smackdown started going back and forth. Has the story run its course, or is it going to be kind of a permanent fixture of American politics, or what happens from now on?
Well, Republicans say that Democrats are the ones that are stirring this pot, but it was CPAC that invited Rush to give the speech and treated him as if he were the leader of their party, or at least its most famous person. Also, there are, and if he were, by the way, if he were a committee man from Oklahoma, I bet he would be the leader of the Republican Party, but he happens to be a radio talk show host. The idea that Democrats want it and Republicans, it's their sideshow for the moment. It's not a bad one because, by the way, Rush is probably the best-known figure in the Republican Party at the moment. Name one person that more than 5 people outside the Beltway would recognize or want to listen to. Mitch McConnell?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Eric Cantor, he's an up-and-coming person, maybe a teeny tiny bit, but he doesn't have any name recognition yet. So Rush is what there is.
And when John Boehner, just to that point, when John Boehner and Mitch McConnell were satirized on Saturday Night Live when they were played by, Boehner famously by Dan Aykroyd, it was clear the studio audience did not know who either of them was supposed to be. So your point is well taken. One thing I want to throw in here, a quote we did not get to. This is Rove in the Wall Street Journal. In the face of our enormous economic challenges, top White House aides decided to pee on Mr. Limbaugh's leg. The only nice part about that, Margaret, is that finally somebody is admitting that politicians do that. Okay, on that note, Margaret Carlson of Bloomberg News and The Week. Thanks as always, Margaret.
Yeah. We didn't know before. Thank you, Keith.